How did it feel when you got to college though, and you weren't a homeschooler anymore? Was that something that how did you feel?
So it's funny that you use the phrase "not a homeschooler anymore," because I don't know that I've ever actually outgrown that. I think that's still very much a part of my identity as a person. And I tell people, like, sometimes, if you're filling out like a whatever form, and they ask you for ethnicity, I kind of feel like homeschooler and military brat should fall in there, because that's where I feel like I fall in. It was an adjustment, especially going to school. And Baylor is very homeschooler friendly too. So that was helpful, but going from an environment where I'm used to these people, we kind of have the same inside jokes, we kind of have the same, I don't know if mockery is the correct word, but if you think of like a homeschool mom from the early 90s with the denim jumpers and like like we have this sort of this cultural language that once I got to Baylor, I had to figure out, well, how do I interact with this group of people, some of whom are homeschoolers and some of whom think that homeschooling is what they see when that random outlier shows up on the news, and that's the only exposure to homeschooling that they've ever had. I will say also, being a Black homeschooler is kind of like, not so much now, but when I was growing up, is kind of like a unicorn state. Especially, it might be different in other parts of the country, but especially in Central Texas, it's like, wow, you're Black and you're a homeschooler. Like that's not normal. That's not usual. So really learning how to adjust to life on the outside, I guess, for lack of a better term, but also practical things. Deadlines were fun. If my mom gives me a deadline, she knows, oh, you had this come up, or oh, this thing happened, or this friend came over, and so on and so forth. College professors don't care that that's what happened to you. And eventually they get really tired of excuses. And I'm not saying that I was like, to the point where every day there was something, but I really did have to learn, mom's not here. And if you want a degree, you need to do what needs to be done in order to get that degree. I won't say that it was a culture shock. I know that does pop up sometimes with people who have been homeschooled their entire lives, and then college is their first experience outside of that environment. But there was a learning curve. There absolutely was a learning curve. There were a lot of things that I had to get used to. I think having the foundation that I did, which is why I say, like, I still identify as a homeschooler. I was really proud of the fact that I was in class with kids who may have gone to private schools their entire lives, may have gone to public schools their entire lives, and I could still compete with them academically.